journalist Steve Ratner help us.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kind for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. Hey, folks, how are you doing this afternoon? Yes, yesterday I had a tape live show with Tim Danahy, one of the great supporters of the country, great supporters of activism, great supporter of the program. And we had for about a 50-minute conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I surely hope you guys enjoyed it. Why was I missing yesterday? Well, my sister from San Diego came to visit us over the Memorial weekend, and I can tell you that I'm happy and ecstatic that I'm seeing my sister in a long, long time, several years since I think since before Ashley's first stroke. I hadn't seen her in person. We talked on the phone, but I hadn't seen her. So both my sister and my brother-in-law are here. So I'm very happy. Yesterday I had to go pick them up at the airport. So all's good, all's good, all's good. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. Title of the show today is Let's Separate Perception from Reality in Our Economy, and the private sector dispensing dialysis kills. Okay, we're going to talk about that. But before we get started, of course, I got to go ahead and say, welcome aboard. Eric Hayes is in the house. From where again? From where again? From where again? Kingwood, Atascocita, Texas. Bridge MCP is in the house. From where again? Binghamton, New York. Welcome aboard, Bridge. Great to see you here. E2247 has the numbers for us, and we'll go over those numbers right after I introduce everybody else. We have, as usual, J. Ray. El Senor Ray is in the house. How are you doing, Ray? Great to see you here. He says, hola, peeps. We also have in the house, para ver, Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. J. Ray. Ray is from 3rd Ward here in Houston. Got to remember where everybody's from. We also have Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. And we have Lee Grant from Montgomery County. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. And of course, IVQ. I think I named AVQ already. Did I get everybody or did I miss somebody as you guys come in? I'll call you out when I see you. Anyway, folks, great to be here. Great to be here. All right, let's go ahead and we are going to get started. We are going to get started with the numbers. Let's get to E2247, who diligently gives us the numbers every single day. Thank you, E2247, for that. I'm scrolling up to find your numbers, E2247. I'm going to have to kind of do a search here because I can't find it. A lot of messages already. Okay, I see it. I see it. Let's see. Israel shall submit a report to the court. I saw that already, but I want to get to your numbers. Let's get to your numbers. Let's get to your numbers. All right. End the genocide. Send a message to Senator Markey and Warren. JFK Federal Building, Cambridge, at Sudbury St. Street, Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, we will. All right, there we go. Day 231 since 7 October 2023. At least 35,800 Palestinians killed, 91 persons more than day 229. At least 1,011 wounded, 90 persons more than day 229. 115,811 casualties. We also have 811 casualties, which is equal to 501 per day of an estimated 5,385,012. 2% of West Bank and Gaza Palestinian population with 35,800 Palestinians killed. Averages 155 murdered per day. 38,000 are kids and women. I think it's higher than that, but we'll stick with those numbers. Were the U.S. to be in that situation of Palestine now, 231 days into the genocide by Israel, U.S. would have proportionally killed 7,236,386 people. That is sad, but that is the reality. All right, raw story for Michael Rodnin. Trump claims 25,000 people attended his Bronx rally. New York PD says it's much less. Fox News reports that Trump's campaign originally put the estimate at 3,500, but upped the number after the event. The Guardian reported Hugo Lowell reported Thursday that night that moments before the former president was slated to appear at line of about 1,000 people stood outside the official rally space. Kind of surprised that Trump even got a few thousand people, as his efforts to draw crowds to the courthouse were met with crickets. And it's all a setup. But we also have to remember, if you notice some of the people that they interviewed, I don't know what's wrong with our media. Our media is defective because they make those people who spoke at that rally seem to be representative of the Bronx, New York, which is a complete fallacy. The media can actually influence politics with bad reporting. And that is something that needs to be taken care of. But then again, that's why you have politics done right. Then again, that's why you have Mother Jones. Then again, that's why you have papers like the Daily Kos, or papers like many of the others. I can't think of the one that I really like as well, run by a woman. What is that paper that I like? Anyway, well, I'll think about it later on, and when I remember it, I'll talk about it. Okay, we have Michael Rodnan says this is a repeat from yesterday, which I wasn't there live, but let me go ahead and repeat it because you guys come first. It says repeat from yesterday. New York Magazine, Trump plays a racist hits at New York trial. Trump said after he exited the courtroom, the judge hates Donald Trump. Take a look. Take a look at him. Take a look at where he comes from. He can't stand Donald Trump. He's doing everything in his power. Juan Merchang, born in Bogota, immigrated from Colombia with his family when he was 6 years old and grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens. Merchang worked his way through college, graduating from Baruch College as an undergrad and receiving his law degree from Hasfra University School of Law. In 2016, Trump criticized Judge Gonzalo Curiel, who presided over a group of civil lawsuits against Trump University, the former president's for-profit educational program that was accused of being fraudulent, which it was. Trump called Curiel a hater and suggested that he couldn't be impartial in the case due to his Mexican heritage. Two from the comment section. Trump began his political career with his racist Central Park 5 campaign and moved on to his racist Bertha campaign, then banning Muslim immigrants. When Trump campaigns on making America great again, he's referring to prior to our Civil War. Typical Trump, accusing people of bias without being able to point out any decisions that were actually biased. He attacks people instead of addressing the issue on their merits, usually because he doesn't have any basis to complain about how he's actually doing. But remember this also. The judge that is protecting him right now is a Colombian-born judge. What is her name? The one who's going over the not the leaked documents, but the confidential documents. That one. Yeah, that one that he shouldn't be giving out. What's her name? Can't remember her name, but somebody's going to put it in the chat in a little bit because I have the best audience in the world. All right, what else have we got here? What else have we got here? What else have we got here? Eric Hayes says, Biden's demoralizing speech to Morehouse grads in 2013 commencement address. Obama stressed opportunity. Mr. B patronizing grads. Sad should be discussing opportunities. That is right out of the right-wing machine. He actually gave a lot of opportunities, and he also told them what he intended to do for them. But, of course, you didn't see the speech, so you just parrot what was told to you by the right. You got to do better than that. You got to do better than that. All right, what else have we got here? What else have we got here? Para ver. Rest in peace. Sad news about lawmakers' daughters doing mission work in Haiti, getting murdered by gang thugs. Didn't hear that one. Try to do good. Yep, a lot of that happens here as well. Bridge MCP said, family is great. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, continuing. We also have Paul Fleming said, early voting often draws a torrent of vitriol from Trump, who falsely claims he lost him the 2020 election. No, not pursuing an early voting strategy in 2024 would be political suicide, said Brian Scrimmon, the chairman of Wisconsin Republican Party. Deb Denny is in the house. Deb Denny is from, I remember, Indiana. Now, the city, I can't remember, but I know she's from Indiana. Michael Rudnin says, Eric, Trump has long-standing habit of overestimating his crowd size. Just remember the beginning. Lee Grant says, I like how the Trump rally was in AOC's backyard. Yeah, and what's the point? I mean, it won't help him. Bridge MCP said he pays people to stand behind him. More for blacks. Yep, pay them a few dollars and get them to speak in the camera, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay. What else have we got here? Paul Fleming says one of the clear messages from Chief Justice John Roberts is not to even trying to restraining Alito and Thomas, open family partisans, to the point of even releasing an Alito written opinion, gutting anti-gerrymandering rules under the VRA. Is that he is unconcerned, it turns out, about the court's reputation or moral authority. He and his conservative majority are going to implement their political and religious visions and impose it on the rest of us. They know none of us can stop them. Yep, that's what I always spoke about, the undemocratic nature of the Supreme Court, which is the reason why we must retain the Senate, we must regain the House, and we must retain the presidency. And the Senate must add 4 new justices to the Supreme Court. I repeat, they must add 4 new justices to the Supreme Court. All right, let's see what else we have here. Michael René says, Lee, AOC's backyard is Queens, not the Bronx. Tell me you don't know New York without telling me you don't know New York. Hey, Lee, you should have asked Brother Rodden before now. Okay, Deb Denny says, Eileen Cannon. Thank you, Deb. Eileen Cannon. She is Colombian, isn't she? I'm pretty sure Eileen Cannon is Colombian. Let me see. Eileen Cannon, is she Colombian? Let's see. I think she's Colombian. Meanwhile, Cannon was born in Colombia and was raised in Miami. So, Trump, what's the point of your argument? One Colombian likes you and the other Colombian doesn't give a damn. Okay? Just remember that. You just don't mean too much to these people. All right. Paul Pimmon says, Tennessee, several sober drivers charged for DUI, all arrested by one officer. He estimated he lost $15,000 in lost wages due to being arrested for a crime for which he was always innocent. I think they need to take care of that. They need to fire that guy. All right. Paul from Poston, that feels premature, had a knee-jerk reaction to your comment. Then check the article. This officer will soon be fired from this press. Right from the article. Now a WSM W4 investigation found the officer who arrested him has also arrested other sober drivers. You'll see the full investigation on Thursday. All right, let's get to our first video concerning the dialysis problem. We're going to do that right this minute. So let's go ahead and get busy right now. Let's go ahead and do that dialysis story right this minute. Let me tell you some of what I feel. There are a lot of people doing a whole lot of good work, a lot of research going on by independent journalists throughout our country. There are a lot of students writing and doing a lot of research papers, etc. But if you read the New York Times or the Washington Post or any one of the major newspapers, the Houston Chronicle, there are select numbers of articles that you're going to read, that you're going to have to. All those articles go through the producer network within that particular company, New York Times or whatever. And each of those companies have 2 things that are important. They're first of all, their bottom line, and then their ideology. If you take a look at a paper like the Houston Chronicle, you won't see very liberal stories or stories that would have a liberal bent. If you take a look at the New York Times, I know a lot of conservatives like to consider the New York Times the progressive paper of record. It's far from that. At best, most of us progressives consider the New York Times a center-right paper. In other words, it's always towing the line. And to put it bluntly, it tows a very neoliberal style mindset. So therefore,
there are a lot of other rags around. I mean, we have the Nations magazine, Mother Jones, we have Daily Kos, you have the independent blogs that I write. You have a lot of people doing a lot of research and good work out there. Why is that important? Because stories that many haven't heard of, many don't understand, many don't see, these get covered. One of the things that I do at this program is many times amplify other stories from rags most people never heard of, don't read, but that are reputable with the information that they have and has a whole lot of backing in said information. And this particular article tickled my fancy yesterday from Mother Jones, and it had a well-researched article. It's a very long article, and the person who wrote the article, it's clear they put a lot of effort into getting their data and getting all this information. Why do I preface it that way? Because one of the reasons we want folks to see these things is that in our healthcare system, whenever we try to make major changes, it is hard. And why is that hard? Because at any given time, most people are relatively healthy. So they are not in contact with the healthcare system on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, etc. So you go through the pain of being with the system for a few hours, if you're lucky, a month or a year. But otherwise, it's just a thing. So you don't get a chance to see those people who have to be chronic users of the healthcare system because of their condition. But the one thing that we know is that at some time, most people at some part of their lives will have some sign of chronic use of the system. And when you get there and it's not there in the right form, it can be devastating. I have a wife with lupus, a wife who just got shingles, a daughter that's had 2 strokes. I stay away from the hospital system, maybe stupidly, but I do, because from the healthcare system, because I have some prejudices against how the system treats people like me. Now, that said, this article about dialysis really was difficult to read. And why is that? Because we have a system that, for the most vulnerable people, it can be very unfair and it can be very inhumane. And the story that Jack started about was Tommy's story. And Tommy was somebody that went in, goes to dialysis treatments 3 times a week. But the one thing he is somebody who wanted to make sure that the people who are giving him this dialysis were doing a good job. And because he complained, he was referred to or called belligerent. And under the law, they were able to deny him care. So ultimately, what happened to Tommy in this system is that Tommy had to wait till he's near death each time from not having dialysis for days, go to the emergency room to get cleaned out, and the cycle begins again. But none of the dialysis companies, and there are 2 major dialysis companies, DaVita and a German company of which I can't recall the name right now. They own 80% of the market. It's been corporatized, the entire dialysis system. Backstory. In the past, when dialysis just came out, there were few dialysis machines in the 60s, but there was a committee called the God Committee. And the God Committee selected the people around the United States who would be lucky enough to use the limited resources of dialysis machines. As time went on, supply caught up with demand, but it was still an expensive proposition, about $150,000 a year to be on dialysis. And by the way, all of this occurs because of patents and the commercialization of machines, all of that. And the dialysis doesn't really cost $150,000 a year for a patient. But that's what is charged. That's what a capitalist system does to healthcare. But we'll tackle that a little bit further down. So the God Committee selected who got dialysis back in the 60s when it was invented. And after the 60s, when it was invented, we got the United States government in 1972 said, well, you know what? We are going to make kidneys a special case, and Medicare covers kidney dialysis. And then all these private companies sprung up to give dialysis machines. You know, your nephrologist had a dialysis machine. Little companies had dialysis machines, and they were all able to, make a little profit on giving dialysis. The government was paying for it. Socialized medicine with the assistance of the private sector delivering the care, which meant somebody who owns that dialysis company or that little doctor shop made a few dollars. Not extraordinarily so. Look, I wouldn't have had that layer at all, but hey, we had that, and that worked for a while. But then the government opened it up that said private investment companies and all of that could buy up and be a part of the game. And when they became a part of the game, they started buying up all these little dialysis shop around the country, your private doctor's dialysis center, your small company dialysis center, and they bought it all up, and now they own 80% of the market, two companies. What that means, of course, is that we have a great welfare system for these companies. They provide a service at officially no risk. If you have a sure payer in the government, right? What does that mean? That means you don't have any risk. But the idea behind big profits, if you follow the capitalist model, is that the reason you allow companies to have big profits is because it purportedly creates innovation with those profits. But again, if you don't have the risk, there are two things that happen when you don't have this risk. There's no real need for further innovation. Things are currently working fine. So what do you do next? The next thing you do is you say, all right, since we believe in it, since this system says we want exponential growth. What exponential growth looks like is the people who invest in these dialysis companies now, they may expect a 7% return every year. In other words, they want 7% growth, not return, growth. They want 7% growth every year. That's exponential growth. It's something that is not sustainable. So how do they do it? When you had these big companies buy up all these dialysis centers, now two companies own it. Again, the default state of capitalism is monopoly. They would try to tell you no. Government intervention stops monopoly when it prevents monopoly. So the default state of capitalism is to create monopolies. But how do you stop the monopolies? You create government intervention that mitigates capitalism to stop that behavior. That's not what has happened in dialysis. These companies control 80% of the market. And in doing so, the next growth state that they have is how, now that we own the entire damn market, how can we even make more money? And the way they do it is they say, okay, we used to have professional nurses like they have in Canada or Australia or these other countries. We used to have professional nurses that did the work. Well, professional nurses cost too much damn money. So now they have specialized technicians that's trained to do just that job. And for the most part, that works, right? Of course, until some patient has behaviors, etc., that only a professional healthcare provider can understand away from what they have to do in dialysis. So that's what they do to reduce their costs and to have more people, and to have more profits for the investors in these new companies that now control your dialysis. And when that doesn't work, they start using cheaper material. So what a lot of patients were noticing is they were using cheaper bandages that cause rashes on people, that hurt people, etc. And according to the law, a dialysis center can can bar somebody from taking dialysis if they become a problem patient. The CMS, Center for Health, I don't remember what it stands for, allows them to go ahead and deny service to these people. And they ask them, if you're going to deny service to this patient, try to find them another place. But if find them another place, well, no big deal. The patient just have to see what the patient can do. Wait till they get sick enough to go to the dialysis, to the emergency room, which is what happened to Mr. Tommy. So these patients are starting to complain that their bandages don't work right. The nurses don't know what they're doing. They're not really nurses anymore. So the service declines and they start to push people through like cattle. If you go to a Davida Center, according to the article, and I see them all around Houston, and I imagine you see them all over the country. You go to one of these places, you're like a cattle, just giving people through. They have to get you into the machine, sanitize the machine, go back into circulation and do it. And a lot of it wasn't doing right. And if you go ahead and complain about your bandage, if you complain about your service, they start to put inside of your record that you are a problem client, a problem patient. And that record follows you. And so what they're doing is they're building the case that this person is going to complain about our service. Let's build a case so that when we cut the plug, we can have a case that says this person has been a problem client for a long time, a problem patient for a long time. That is what our system devolves to, a healthcare system that is based on profit and not humanity. I'm going to talk about the profit in a little bit. So what we find is in a country right now, over 5,000 people at this time, right now, have been told that they cannot use these services anymore. And these are people that ultimately wait till they get very sick, go to an emergency room, their blood gets taken. Oh my God, you're in renal failure. We got to give you dialysis right now. And then you wait till you get sick again and you get dialysis again and again in the emergency room at a higher cost that we all pay. All of this because these companies that control the system want exponential growth. Not only exponential growth, but they want the ability to go ahead, do as they please to make for their shareholder.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Let me tell you some of what help us, please join. Anyway, when I read that story, it was quite upsetting because, as it turns out, once again, the corporate sector are finding ways to deny you care, and they do it in such esoteric ways constantly. It is a fight that one has to continue to fight over and over again. Let's see what we got here. Eric Hay says all doctors will encounter a problem patient at some time in their career. Maybe a patient is highly irritable and can act out due to inconveniences such as a long wait. Perhaps they are chronic self-diagnosers who refuses to follow medical directions or whatever. Problematic patients create stress for office staff. In fact, one study found that doctors make more diagnostic errors when dealing with difficult patients compared to a neutral patient. Disgruntled patients are likely to broadcast their displeasure online by writing a poor review or logging a patient complaint. These negative testimonials hurt your ability to attract new patients, particularly if you don't proactively monitor and manage your online reputation. Fortunately, there are methods to effectively cure for problems.
patients that can employ to increase satisfaction. And look, when it comes to online doctoring, all you have to do is, as they say, monitor. Again, and generally, if you treat a patient like a human being, at 99.99% of the times you get a good review. To put it bluntly, the one doctor that I respect, and I'll name him here on my show, Tejas Mehta. Tejas Mehta, Tejas Mehta, Mehta. That is the first time I felt comfortable with a doctor. The first doctor I thought actually treated me like a human being. And the first thing I did when I left that office was to go to Google and write a good review for that doctor. Because again, I have been so used to poor health care. And this one person did right by me the very first time in my entire healthcare life. So now, Eric, in general, if you do your job, it's fine. Debs Dennis says, so it looks like YouTube is censoring my comments. Here's what I said. Don't know why people are accusing Biden of genocide, then turn around and complain that he won't send 2,000-pound bombs to attack Rafah. Trump told Netanyahu to raise Gaza and take care of the problem. Attacking Rafah will be declaring war on Egypt, and SCOTUS is hearing a case which will take the teeth out of being able to break up monopolies. I know, but you know what? We'll take care and make sure that isn't a reality. All right. Michael Rudnin from Jacobin. I've previously covered the recent revelations that Meta's popular Instagram app was developed with full internal company understanding that it was actively harming users, especially young girls. Google is facing two major state federal lawsuits, one over its maintenance of its search monopoly with gigantic payments to phone makers, including Apple, and another expected within months over its online advertising monopoly. Amazon is being sued by Federal Trade Commission to controlling online retail and its third-party marketplace, and even Microsoft has struggled with regulators in its drive to enlarge its gaming empire. Like I said, the default position of monopolies or of capitalism is monopoly. And the tenets tell you, two tenets, whatever the market will bear, and you care about nothing but maximizing the shareholder value. If you're maximizing the shareholder value, one of the things you do is you try to get rid of competition, and by all means necessary. And the only way to protect against that is government has to get involved. Government has to protect capitalism from itself, has done it many times, and it continues to do it. Why not just can it and create a free enterprise system with a hell of a social safety net? A lot better than capitalism. It's a matter of how it's implemented. All right, let's see what else we got here. Egberto, for the screen that global cost of tax advance, see how much it costs. I love those types of graphs because a lot of people just don't get it. They allow these people to know them completely. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen, and it goes like this. The global cost of tax avoidance, estimated annual corporate tax losses, selected countries, billions of dollars. America, $188.8 billion loss because of tax cheats. China, $66.8 billion. Japan, $46.8 billion. India, $41.2 billion. France, $19.8 billion. Germany, $15 billion. Australia, $6.1 billion. Spain, $5.5. South Korea, $1.1. And United Kingdom, $1.1. I guess United Kingdom knows what it's doing. Amazing. I didn't put that on the screen. Let's go ahead and see if I can get that onto the screen. There we go. For some reason, I missed it. Okay, it's on the screen now. It's on the screen now. All right. So what else have we got here? What else have we got? Persuasive Barrier says, what do you see Project 2025 doing to combating chronic corporatism? Project 2025 is not doing anything. In fact, it's increasing it. And I said I was going to do a project on Project 2025, but it's a lot of reading. I think it's like 600 something pages long, and I don't really have the time to put into that. But I'll try to find some synopses to work from. Okay. What else we got here? I'm scrolling up.
I'm scrolling up. I'm scrolling up before I go to the next topic. Okay, Mike Cisak says, did Egberto say allow companies to have high profits? That's what a dictator says. No, that's exactly what I mean. A company is a corporation is a false entity created, and we determine what are the laws that govern that newly created being, that newly created corporation. And yes, one of the rules that we give is how it handles taxes, how it handles capital gains, how it handles its revenue. That's if we are going to create a new entity, you put it's like an object oriented design, right? Within that object, you put all the parameters for that object, and one of it is what about profits? How do you handle profits? It's just like we had a rule in capitalism where if you have capital, we created the rule that says capital is taxed at a lesser rate than wage income. That's another rule. Do you complain about that? No. So there we go. Consistency. That's one thing with me. I'm consistent. Monopolies only came about by government dictate or laws. Huh. Well, I can't answer that because that's just patently wrong. Completely. In fact, it makes absolutely no sense. All right. Scrolling down, one more to go. We got, let's see, E224 with a heat index between 88 and 90 for 4 days. Oh, that would be like winter for us here in Texas. Our heat index is over 100 degrees or somewhere in that vicinity. Anyhow, as you guys know, the economy is doing, our economy is outperforming every economy in the OECD, just about every economy. Our inflation rate is down, our employment is at record levels, etc. But Americans don't seem to know it, and we have all the progressive intelligentsia telling folks, why is it that Americans aren't feeling it? And they talk about perception and they're not feeling it. Well, when you ask a particular question, how is your personal economy? Everybody talks about their personal economy doing fairly well, but the state economy sucks. The national economy sucks, but I'm doing fine. This is calculated indoctrination from great pieces written by the right. One of the reasons that we write all the blogs that we write, one of the reasons we do all the things we do to increase knowledge is exactly because of that, right? So we have Steve Ratner, who kind of put some sense into the nonsense. And we have a lot of work to do. We have to improve a lot. We have to make the corporations pay more. We have to let them pay more to people. We have to force them to pay their fair share in taxes. We have to force them to stop inflation. Otherwise, we will tax their inflation-driven profits right out of them and redistribute it back to the people they stole it from. That is what we must do. So anyway, let's go ahead and listen to Steve Ratner here, and then we will take it on the other side.
Analyst Steve Ratner help us separate perception from the facts of this economy. Steve, good morning. So we can start with that idea of the United States being in a recession right now, which it plainly is not. We can talk about why so many Americans believe that, but let's talk first in your chart about where we really are.
Yeah, Willie, it's really quite an extraordinary poll. We've seen polls before that show Americans having a more negative view on the economy. I've never seen one quite like this. These are the numbers you mentioned in your lead-in, that roughly more than half of Americans think we're in a recession. It is divided somewhat by party. More Republicans, 67%, feel it than Democrats, but even Democrats, 49% feel it. We've seen this kind of divergence before, and interestingly enough, it flips around with every election, not surprisingly. But here's the reality. The reality is the economy has basically been growing since COVID, except for a very small downturn here. Under Joe Biden, it's grown by 2.8% a year, which is actually slightly faster than it was growing under Trump, even before COVID hit. And so you can see every quarter we've had reasonably strong economic growth. So why people feel this is really quite a mystery.
So, Steve, what about, this other sort of low unemployment, a surging stock market, and yet ... How do you explain what's going on with the economy?
Yeah, you get the same kind of news results when you look at those kinds of things. 50% of Americans think unemployment is at a 50-year high. 50% think it's at a 50-year high. Unemployment is actually at a 50-year low. It's really amazing. Unemployment is below 4%. It's been below 4% for months and months now. And it is, it's just extraordinary that people think we're at a 50-year high. You can see some of the highs over here. Another issue is stocks. Half of Americans think stocks are down this year. Stocks are actually up 11% this year. They're up 45% since Joe Biden took office. Complete disconnect in people's minds between perception and reality of the stock market.
Well, it's how, there are some people who are legitimately feeling the pinch still. And yet, though, overall, Americans have a very negative perception of Biden's economy. And is that fair? What do you see?
What's interesting, and we've looked at some of these numbers before, is that if you ask people how their own finances are, about 75% think they're okay. And that really goes all the way back to 2018, pretty consistently. What's happened in the last number of years, and not just under Biden, but it really started back in about 2019 or thereabouts, the perception of how local economies are doing has deteriorated, and the perception of how the national economy is doing has deteriorated. So people have created this dichotomy in their minds between the national economy, their local economy, and themselves. What's also interesting, most recently, and these are from some other polls that have come out lately. What's also interesting is the way divergence between sentiment and approval has occurred. People's sentiment about the economy has actually been trending up. We had one bad number the other day, but we'll have to see if it's an aberration, if it jumps around a little bit. But the general trend has been improving sentiment. On the other hand, Biden's approval ratings have been trending down. Now, there are obviously a lot of other things going on, particularly the war in Gaza and so on and so forth. But there seems to be now a spread between how people feel about the economy to some degree and how they feel about Biden.
And that is what's important, for us to know the facts, the numbers, etc. Now, you're going to have those who simply, for ideological reasons, simply because they don't have an affinity for numbers, or they don't have the proclivity to follow numbers, etc., that they are happy to convince themselves of the lie because it fits into how they think about something. I can't help that. I honestly can't help those who want to remain uninformed, those who want to remain ignorant. That's your call. Now, it is okay to say you don't like a particular president just because he doesn't have your ideology. But it is intellectually dishonest, it is ignorant to go ahead and simply ignore a reality, because then that puts your own character in question. That puts your own intellect in question. So remember that those are simply the numbers, and the numbers are there for all to see. It's not hidden from anybody. All right, Lee Grant says the appeal. No, I don't care to talk about the flag. I think the flag is a silly thing. Let's see what else we got here. What else we got here? We will see a recession called in October 2023 once Trump is elected. Biden admin has been cooking the books. Oh my God. How do you cook books of private companies? Please tell me. How do you cook the books of private companies? That it's an extensive part of all these things. Again, folks, ignorance is one thing. Willful ignorance is another. And Michael Rudnin nails it. The economy is doing good for the top 1%, the same people that Trump intends to represent again. Wrestling what was stolen by the 1% is going to be very difficult, but something that has to be done. We're going to have a wealth tax and many other types of these products. Anyway, folks, I don't have any more videos for the show. I don't have any more items to cover.
So now it's all up to you, either in the chat or you can give us a call at 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. Egberto, how do you cook the books as a private company? Ask Trump, overvalue your properties for the purpose of bank and investment, undervalue them for tax purposes. The guy's a thug. Bridge MCP says only some are willfully ignorant. The rest are brain dead. Sorry. Well, again, I can't argue with that because I just don't know, but I'll cop to it. Mike Cisak says, Egberto, I'm talking about government reporting. There was a massive change in jobs back in fourth quarter 2023, about 750K erased. Oh my God, we still have the aggregate numbers that are there all the time, and there's no difference in what you see occurring in the adjustments than you see under Trump. It's funny, you're saying the books are cooked. They correct the numbers, but the books are cooked. If the books are cooked, why bother correcting the numbers? Sometimes I wonder, many times I wonder about my brothers and sisters on the right. And when I say the right, I'm talking about the MAGA right. Really, madre mía, ¿por qué es que piensan así? Why do you think that way? Why do you think that way? Is it so hard to be educated? You have a good platform here under which to be educated. And that's what we try to do every day. But anyway, brothers and sisters, we got it. Anybody wants to call in? 281-823-7747. Come on in. Let's do it. 281-823-7747. Who will be the first call of today? Mike Cisak says each month the jobs numbers are changed from a previous month to the negative. Not all the time it's to the negative. There are times it's been zoomed up as well. Take a look at all the updates. Some of them went up, some of them went down. That's just the nature of the beast. It's not only in the Biden administration, it occurred in the Trump administration, it occurred in every administration. Come on now. Persuasive Barrett says, speaking of cookbooks, Trump and crew erased his job number performance with his last year in office. I know. Then he says when people conflate higher prices because of corporate greed to the fault of the administration is lacking in education or willful ignorance. Exactly. We said that, and that is an exactly true statement. Persuasive Barry said he had a perfect economy. Perfect economy, all right. Perfect economy, all right. Not a chance. People need to learn things like, well, I won't go there. All right. CSAC monopoly from Greek, as described by Irving Fisher, is a market with the absence of competition. Exactly. All right, folks, we don't have any other topics to discuss at this point. So therefore, it's all about what you put in the chat, or if somebody calls in to 281-823-7747. Let's hear from you. 281-823-7747. A lot of you in the chat. Come on in. Printing money causes inflation. Milton Friedman is the daddy of capitalism. One of the most evil frauds there is on the planet. He's the one who, if you look up his speech in Wikipedia, he said we shouldn't be worried about the environment. We shouldn't be worried about moral values. The sole purpose of the executive is to maximize shareholder value. And with that comes great bonuses for the executives. Think about it, folks. So once you mention Milton Friedman, it's almost as bad as commenting about the devil. Persuasive Barry says, how about Trump bringing murderers to the stage at Brock's rally after yelping about the FBI trying to kill him? I know, actually Trump wouldn't do that, but we need to parade those people. We should have paraded those 5 guys in front of Trump in the Bronx. I think it would have made a difference, right? Yeah, I think so. All right, folks. 281-823-7747. Una vez más. 281-823-7747. Una vez más. 281-823-7747.
Wait, 1-823-7747. Okay, if nobody calls, oh, there we go. Tom Zarnik, how are you doing, my brother? Talk to me.
Yes, hello. How are you? Let me
I
get
am
this
doing
sound
great. Let me
down
take
here
it
so we
off
don't
of
get
the
this double take.
speaker so we don't get that feedback. Bear with
Yeah,
me 1 second. I'm going
yeah,
to
I'm
do it
getting a
right
feedback.
now. Yeah, I'm going to fix that feedback right this minute. Bear with me. And that feedback is now officially fixed. Talk to me.
All right. Okay, I don't have a limerick today, but this talk about monopoly has gotten me. I was looking it up, and I had an economics class, a couple of them a while ago. But one of the things you don't talk about, and we don't talk about enough, is oligopolies
Mm-hmm.
and duopolies.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about a company like Exxon or some of these other big companies where they don't have total control of the market, but they're part of a small group, a cartel that does control prices and controls production in the market, and that affects prices directly. And everybody, I know that Mike Cisak and Eric, they talk about government causing monopolies. Well, at one time, and in some cases, government does cause monopoly if it's an essential service that requires consistent production or consistent service all the time. So, we had at one time we had a telephone company was a monopoly,
Mm-hmm.
but then we just determined that that wasn't necessary anymore. In some states, utilities are monopolies because you can't really have competition when you have fixed assets and you have lines that electric transmission lines and all that have to be under one central control.
Mm-hmm.
But in some cases you can have competition, and you should. And the government has allowed regulation to go off and let the market bear. But now we're seeing something that happened just recently with this with Ticketmaster and controlling prices for concerts, and what the government allowed them to go in and do whatever they wanted for a while. Now they're finding out they've created a monopoly and shut out competition. So now the government may have to step in and try to break them up or ensure competition in some other way. And I think it's a complicated concept, and we need to make sure we understand exactly what's going on. And I was looking up at the Sherman Antitrust Act, and I think that what's happened over the years, especially since Reagan, we have the government through the FTC or whatever other agencies are involved in looking at what's going on with monopolies. We have stopped understanding how prices are fixed, and this goes to your situation where you talk about greedflation and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that we don't have enough regulation when it comes to corporations, and there's a delicate balance, and I understand that you can't over-regulate, but I think we're in a situation where we're under-regulating a lot of these companies and allowing them to reap record profits without reducing prices when the market is indicating that the prices should be reduced. And we're allowing a lot of these companies to just keep going on and determining with the cooperation of other companies, like in an oligopoly, where they're actually fixing prices, and we don't know it because it's behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm. Look, let me tell you, Tom, you nailed it, and it's there for all to see as well, right? And the easiest one to show is with the oil companies, as you mentioned, because when the oil prices start to fall, what do? They artificially cut production simply to keep the price of oil high. That is anathema to supply and demand, the supply and demand that is supposed to run
Right.
a capitalist society. It's anathema to that. But we are, those of us that are environmentalists, we're glad about it, right? Raise the price so that people
Right.
drive less. But if it were following the market as they'll have you believe, then as more of the supply appears, that's what you have to put on the market because you've got the supply and you have the demand.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really a fraud on the American system. Anything else you need to add, Tom, before I move on to my ask?
Okay, real quick. I recently bought a chainsaw, a battery-powered chainsaw, and it works great. And I'm so glad I got it because the chainsaws I had were burning oil and gas, and they didn't work right, and I kept breaking down, and it was going to cost me a fortune to get them fixed. I got this new chainsaw. It was a couple $100, and it's got a battery in it, and it works great. So when you talk about,
Electric.
using green energy, electric energy, recharge, I really enthusiastically have people check that out. I'm not sure about car yet, but these small devices, these tools that use batteries, I think they're great.
Excellent. I mean, I think they're great too. I got me an electric one, but my latest drill was completely, well, I guess a lot of drills are battery, but yeah, those electric things are getting a lot more powerful and more storage capacity. Thank you so
Oh, yeah.
kindly.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Tom. You have a great one, and we'll talk on Monday. Thank you. All right, folks, that was the one and only Tom C. He didn't have a limerick for us today, but at least we heard his voice because that was the one and only Tom C. Hey, folks, support the program. How can you support the program? Many ways to support the program. The all-encompassing link to support the program is at politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. If you want to see what you're supporting, if you want to see all the links and all the work that we do, both on social media, articles and books and otherwise, go to politicsdoneright.com/info. politicsdoneright.com/info. You can also become a patron. How do you become a patron? Go to politicsdoneright.com/patron. Patron is spelled Patreon. Patreon. Likewise, go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Well, before that, go to politicsdoneright.com/books to pick up one of our many books. And what I'm going to do right now is scroll those books online that we're covering. What are those books? As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. Likewise, How to Make America Utopia, take away the economy from those who rigged it, and it's worth it. How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors. And lastly, but not least, Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. And then the most recent book that I wrote, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism Didn't Stop My Smile, Hope, or Journey Forward. Anyway, folks, so you can go to politicsdoneright.com/books to get any one of my books. Let me put that in the link here. As well, you can go ahead. Here's the deal. We do a newsletter that comes out with what we're going to talk about the program every day, the KPFT program every day. You can pick up that news, or you can sign up for that newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. But if you really want to be a supporter to make sure we can continue doing this the way we must, go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber. It is like getting Politics Done Right a coffee a day. Mike Cisak says, Egberto, are you going to have a show on Memorial Day? I'll have a morning show on Memorial Day at KPFT 90.1 FM. You can see it the same way you watch it now, Mike, but I'll be having a live show on KPFT 90.1 at 6 a.m. Central Time on Monday. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the Memorial Day 3 o'clock show yet. It all depends on what the family wants to do. Like I said, my sister is in town and her husband in town, my brother-in-law from San Diego, and I do want to spend some time with them. But if I have dead time for that 1 hour, we'll do the show on at 3 o'clock. But I'm not sure if it's going to be live yet. There will be a show. I'm not sure if it's going to be a live show. There's always a show. I don't know, but thank you for being here, all of you. Thank you. I'll send my best to the. Thank you for that, Mike Cisak. Look, I want to tell everybody, have a happy, safe Memorial Day. One more time, please support our newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Deb Denny says, Deb Denny, we'll read that later. I got to get out of here. Look at the time. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.